Whatever you imagine persistently must become your reality. For the world you see is not a world of facts, it is a world of shadows, molded and shaped by the unseen movements of your inner being. Imagination is not a fleeting daydream or idle fantasy. It is the very creative power that gives form to all that you call life. To imagine is to create. To persist in that imagination is to command the unseen forces to gather and crystallize into what you experience as your world. Every condition you now endure, every joy you now celebrate, every disappointment you have met along the way, each of these was first a thought, a belief, an image quietly entertained in the solitude of your mind, and whether you knew it or not, your imagination gave them life. The secret that changes everything is this: what you feel and imagine as real will eventually harden into fact. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are conscious of being. Consider for a moment how often you return to certain images in your mind. When you wake, when you walk, when you're alone with your thoughts, what are the scenes you replay? Are they filled with fear, doubt, and lack? Or do they radiate confidence, abundance, and fulfillment? That which you imagine consistently, whether you label it as hope or fear, becomes a silent decree to life itself. You are always imagining. The question is, are you doing it deliberately? The greatest mistake is to believe that imagination is powerless, that it is mere escapism. But it is the only true power. All that you see in this world once lived first in someone's imagination. The house you live in, the clothes you wear, the voice you hear in music. Even the problems you face began as thoughts nurtured until they became part of your world. And if such power exists within you, does it not follow that your persistent inner vision is the blueprint of your tomorrow? To imagine persistently is not to force with willpower, but to rest in a state that feels real. It is to assume the end, to dwell in the experience as though it were already here. You do not wait for evidence. You create it. You do not chase the thing. You become one with the feeling of already having it. Your inner world must take the lead, and the outer will follow in obedience. This is not a theory to be debated. It is a truth to be proven by personal experience. And once you see its power, you will never again doubt your ability to shape your fate. Many fail to manifest their desires not because they lack effort, but because they waver. They imagine the goal, then the obstacle. They affirm success, then surrender to fear. But the one who persists, who returns daily, hourly if need be, to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, that one cannot fail. Persistence does not mean repetition without belief. It means loyalty to your vision in the face of delay, contradiction, and silence. You must make your imagination more real to you than the current facts. Speak from it, walk in it, feel it deeply, let it become your home. And even if nothing changes at once, do not retreat. The seed you plant in the imagination must gestate. And while it may be hidden, it is never inactive. Life rearranges itself silently in service of your dominant state of consciousness. What you are conscious of being will always find expression. You are not the victim of circumstance. You are the author of circumstance. When the vision becomes more compelling than the evidence of your senses, when the unseen is felt more deeply than the visible, then you have begun to live as the operant power. Imagination, fused with emotion and held persistently, becomes a command to the universe, no matter how impossible it may seem. If you do not let go of the image, it will take root and bloom. It is not enough to imagine once or twice. You must make it a dwelling place. Return to it when you are tired. Return to it when you are discouraged. Return to it when nothing seems to work. For imagination is the womb of reality, and all things must be born twice, first in the mind, then in the world. You do not need to ask how it will happen. That is not your task. Your task is to imagine, feel, and persist. You are the dreamer dreaming the world into existence. That which you consistently entertain in the silence of your soul becomes the loudest declaration of your life. Let your inner conversations be full of the things you long for. Let your thoughts echo the reality you seek, not the one you fear. What you water with your attention grows. And so, when you see no sign, persist. When the world laughs, persist. When your old thoughts try to pull you back, persist. There is no force on earth more powerful than a soul who holds steadfastly to the unseen image of their desire. Reality bends not for the faint-hearted, but for the one who dares to claim the invisible as already theirs. Imagination is not a luxury reserved for artists or dreamers. It is the core faculty by which every individual creates their world, knowingly or unknowingly. The power to imagine is the power to shape the very structure of your existence. All that you see in your world, your relationships, your finances, your health, your career, did not emerge randomly. These things are reflections of the ideas and mental images you have persistently entertained within the hidden theater of your mind. The truth, which so many overlook in favor of facts and figures, is that imagination precedes creation. It is not something secondary to action. It is the cause of action. Every action you've taken began with a thought. Every habit you formed began as a single idea impressed repeatedly upon your mind until it became natural. And every environment you dwell in was once imagined by you or someone else. This world is not fixed. It is fluid and moldable. And imagination is the hand that molds it. When you sit quietly and picture yourself in a life you desire, happy, successful, at peace, you are not escaping reality. You are engaging with the root of reality. You are entering into the first stage of creation. You are planting a seed. And like any seed, it must be watered and nurtured before it can bloom. But what most people do is abandon the garden before the harvest. They imagine once or twice, then look around and say, nothing has changed. But reality is not changed by mere glimpses of desire. It is changed by a consistent inner state. You must dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You must return to the scene of your desire as though it were your home, not as a visitor, but as a resident. Imagination is not weak, it is not pretend, it is not less real than what your senses tell you. In fact, it is more real, for what you sense with your physical eyes is only the shadow of a deeper reality formed within. Think back to your own life. Think of something that once did not exist in your world but now does. A relationship, a job, a moment of success, even a failure. If you are honest, you will remember the thoughts and emotions that led up to it. You will recall the nights you spent thinking of it, the daydreams you had, the fears you entertained. Those thoughts were not idle. They were creative. And they moved silently below the surface until the world had no choice but to obey. This is why you must guard your imagination with seriousness. Most people treat imagination like a toy. They use it to worry, to doubt, to relive pain. They imagine worst-case scenarios and then call them realism. But there's nothing real about giving power to fear. There's nothing practical about expecting the worst. All that happens is the mind, acting on its perfect obedience, brings those scenes to life. And then the person says, see, I knew it would happen, but they do not realize they are not predicting, they are creating. The mind is loyal. It does not judge what you feed it, it simply acts. You have been given a gift so powerful that it mirrors the divine itself. To imagine is to say, let there be. And what follows is the unfolding of that command. The unseen becomes seen, the intangible becomes tangible, and the life you once only dreamed of begins to take form around you. But this process does not happen by accident. It is initiated by intention and sustained by persistence. That is the key so many miss. A moment of imagination is not enough. A passing wish has no root. But when you persist in the same inner experience, when you walk in it, speak from it, live as though it were already true, then you are no longer merely imagining, you are becoming. And when you become something on the inside, the world has no option but to reflect that change. This is not mysticism. This is law. Just as a mirror cannot reflect what is not in front of it, your life cannot reflect what you have not held within. And just as the sun does not choose where to shine, it simply shines, so too does imagination not choose what to manifest, it simply expresses what is most dominantly felt and believed within the mind that uses it. And that is why your attention is sacred. Where your attention goes, imagination flows. And what you imagine persistently becomes the blueprint of your future. Do not wait for external circumstances to change before you allow yourself to imagine something better. That is like waiting for warmth before starting a fire. You must light the fire first. You must dare to imagine your life as you wish it to be, even while it appears otherwise. Because the moment you begin to imagine consistently, with feeling, you are already stepping into a new dimension of self. The world may lag behind for a moment, but it will catch up. It must. That is its nature. The outer follows the inner, not the other way around. You are not at the mercy of fate or chance. You are not a pawn in the hands of others. You are the creator of your experience, not through struggle or force, but through the quiet power of imagination. That which you persistently imagine, you become. And that which you become internally, you must meet externally. This is the eternal truth behind all transformation. Persistence is not about force, nor is it about straining your will to make something happen. It is about a steady, unwavering inner commitment to live in the state of the wish fulfilled. It is the calm and faithful decision to return again and again to the vision you've chosen, regardless of how loudly the outer world screams in contradiction. Most people begin this journey with enthusiasm. They imagine the life they desire, feel the emotions of it, taste its sweetness in their mind. But when days pass and nothing outside changes, doubt creeps in. They begin to wonder if this is just fantasy, if perhaps reality is too fixed, too stubborn to bend. And so they withdraw from the inner world and fall back into reacting to what they see. What they do not understand is that the world outside always lags behind the shift within. Persistence is the bridge that closes that gap. It is the invisible hand that guides unseen energies into alignment. You are not meant to imagine once and then give up. You are not meant to visualize for a few moments and then return to fear or despair. This work requires a faithfulness of heart. It asks you to choose, over and over again, to live internally from the end result, even when the outer world tells a different story. You must become so loyal to your vision that the facts no longer sway your spirit. The appearances no longer have power to define you. You become defined, instead, by what you see and feel within. Imagine planting a seed. You place it in the soil, cover it gently, and water it. Do you return the next morning and dig it up to see if it has sprouted? No. You trust the process. You water it again. You allow the unseen work of growth to unfold beneath the surface. And you do this daily, even though there is no visible proof in the beginning. This is the essence of persistence in imagination. You return to your inner image, the scene that reflects your fulfilled desire, and you water it with belief, with emotion, with silence. You do not demand its sprout overnight. You simply remain faithful. And that faith, that return again and again to the inner picture, is what guarantees the outer result. Persistence is not hard when you understand that it is not effort but trust. It is the relaxation into knowing that your imagination is a creative force, not a passive experience. When you hold a vision with deep feeling and do so consistently, you are writing the script for your life, and life will perform it line by line, moment by moment. But if you keep rewriting the script, if you keep changing the scene or doubting the story midway through, then nothing can settle into form. It's not that imagination doesn't work, it's that it hasn't been given a chance to finish its work. There is a hidden beauty in persistence. It reveals to you what you truly believe. If you find it difficult to hold on to the vision, if you are constantly tempted to return to fear or worry, then that is not failure, it is illumination. You are being shown the parts of your consciousness that are still tied to the old identity. And this is where the real transformation happens. Persistence is not only about achieving the outer desire, it is about refining the inner self until it is fully aligned with that desire. You become the version of yourself that naturally experiences what you imagine. And here lies the mystery. The moment you persist in an inner assumption long enough, it begins to feel normal. What once felt like a stretch becomes your default state. You no longer need to force the feeling because the feeling has taken root. It has become familiar. This is when manifestation becomes inevitable. You are no longer pretending or wishing, you are being. And being is the most powerful creative act in existence. It is not the words you speak or the rituals you perform, but the state you inhabit. And the only way to inhabit a new state fully is to persist in it until the mind accepts it as truth. There will be moments when the old world tries to pull you back, when memories arise, when the past demands your attention. But you must treat those moments like passing clouds. Do not fight them, do not fear them. Simply return to your chosen vision. Every return strengthens it. Every return is a declaration that this is who you are now. And soon, that declaration will no longer be silent. It will echo into the world as changed circumstances open doors and unexpected blessings. People who call it luck or coincidence, but you will know it was born from within. Persistence does not require long hours. It requires sincerity. A few moments of true immersion in the feeling of the wish fulfilled is more powerful than hours of distracted imagining. The key is consistency. Imagine before you sleep. Imagine when you wake. Imagine when your mind wanders. Let your imagination become your dwelling place. Let your inner conversations reflect the life you want to live. And when doubts come, and they will, meet them not with fear but with confidence. Confidence that what you feel within is more real than what you see without. There is no power greater than the human imagination fueled by persistence. It moves mountains, heals wounds, creates paths where none seem to exist. But you must not be swayed by time. Do not measure progress by what appears outside. Measure it by your growing conviction inside. Do you believe more today than you did yesterday? Do you feel closer to your vision when you close your eyes? That is the true compass. That is the evidence of transformation. You have within you the power to shape the very structure of your life, but that power only responds to consistency. You must decide who you are and live from that decision daily. The world may resist at first. It may echo the old beliefs for a while, but if you hold fast, if you return and return again to the reality you've chosen within, the world will eventually surrender. It has no choice. It always bends to the will of the persistent dreamer. You do not become what you wish for, you become what you assume. This is a truth that escapes the minds of many, who believe that desiring something is enough to bring it into being. But desire alone, without a corresponding assumption of its reality, is like a ship without a rudder, drifting, aimless, easily swayed by the tides of external conditions. Your life is shaped not by what you hope for, but by what you inwardly consent to be true. The images you hold as real, the identities you accept, the self-definitions you repeat in your silence, these are the architects of your experience. The outer world is not a judge. It is a servant. It delivers to you precisely what you persistently believe yourself to be. Assumption is the silent decree we make in the depths of our being. It is the posture of the soul. It is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, steady, and often invisible to others. Yet its effects are monumental. When you assume something to be true, even in the absence of proof, you begin to think from it. You begin to feel, speak, and act in alignment with it. And as you continue in this state, the world begins to rearrange itself in response. Not because the world is listening to your words, but because it must reflect the image held in your consciousness. You may say you want success, love, freedom, or peace, but if deep within you feel unworthy, unseen, or powerless, then it is not your spoken desire that creates. It is your assumed identity. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. The truth of who you believe yourself to be is written into every experience you encounter. The relationships you draw, the opportunities that arise, the challenges you face, they are all messages echoing from the beliefs you entertain. Change the belief, and the message changes. To live by assumption is to walk by faith, not by sight. It is to trust the unseen more than the seen. It is to claim what is not yet visible as though it were already fact. And this is not delusion, it is creation. All that you now see was once unseen. Every invention, every masterpiece, every achievement in the world began as a silent assumption in someone's imagination. They believed it real before it became real. They felt it true before anyone else could see it. And because they did, reality responded. The greatest freedom you will ever know comes from understanding that you can choose your assumptions. You are not bound by what others say you are. You are not a prisoner of your past. You are not confined to the limits others have accepted. At any moment you can step into a new idea of yourself. You can say, "This is who I am now," and begin to live from that state. And if you persist, the world will eventually agree. This is the hidden key to all transformation. Not the struggle to force change, but the quiet decision to assume a new identity, to assume health instead of illness, to assume abundance instead of lack, to assume love instead of rejection. And the assumption is made not with the lips, but with the heart. It is felt, not merely spoken. It must become more than a thought. It must become a felt reality, an inner knowing. Many try to change their lives by changing external things. They move cities, switch careers, seek new relationships, hoping that these changes will fix the dissatisfaction within. But the inner self remains unchanged. The assumption remains the same. And so the pattern repeats again and again. Different faces, different places, same experience. Because the external only reflects the internal. You do not escape your assumptions by running from them. You transcend them by replacing them. To assume is to claim authority over your life. It is to say, "I am not waiting for permission. I already am." It is to reject the need for proof and to stand firm in a new identity, knowing that proof must follow. You are not asking the world to believe in you. You are commanding it to reflect what you already believe about yourself. And this power is not reserved for the few. It is the inheritance of every soul willing to awaken to it. There is a moment in the life of every conscious creator when they must choose between comfort and transformation. It is comfortable to remain in the known, to keep affirming the identity that has been shaped by the past. But transformation requires boldness. It demands that you let go of the old and step into the unknown, assuming a new role before it feels natural. And that is where most fall. They wait to feel ready. They wait for external signs. But readiness is an illusion. The sign you seek is the assumption you dare to make. Assumption creates the mold into which life must pour itself. It forms the structure of experience before the experience is seen. And once the structure is set, once the state is occupied, then manifestation becomes a matter of time. But you must stay in the state. You must resist the temptation to slip back into the old identity when nothing seems to change. You must be loyal to the vision, not to the facts. What you assume to be true of yourself becomes your reality, not because of magic or luck, but because life is obedient to your inner state. And if you wish to change your life, change what you assume, not in moments of desperation or fleeting hope, but in the stillness of your heart. Every day, every hour, until the new state becomes your dwelling place, until it becomes natural. And then, when it is no longer a performance, but a being, you will look around and see that the world has caught up with what you have long known to be true. The outer world is nothing more than a mirror, silently reflecting your dominant inner state. What you call reality is not something happening to you, it is something happening through you. Everything you see, hear, and experience is echoing the assumptions you hold within yourself. This is not philosophy. It is not mere inspiration. It is a law, as certain as gravity and as impartial as light. You do not change the mirror by wiping the reflection. You change it by changing the source that produces the image. In the same way, you do not change your circumstances by struggling against them. You change them by shifting the consciousness from which they arise. Every person, every event, every success and failure you encounter in life is drawn to you by your inner self-concept. Life, in its quiet and faithful way, listens to the tone of your inner voice and responds accordingly. If you believe yourself to be unseen, life will give you the experience of being overlooked. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will find relationships and opportunities that reinforce that feeling. If you imagine that abundance is far from you, you will continue to experience lack. Not because life is cruel, but because it is obedient. It delivers only what you persistently believe to be true. This is the reason many live in cycles. They try to change jobs, switch relationships, move to new places, or set new goals, hoping that change will finally bring fulfillment. But nothing truly changes. The same patterns follow them from city to city, from person to person. Why? Because the outer world is not the cause, it is the effect. And until the cause within is altered, the effect remains the same. You cannot outrun your own consciousness. You take it with you wherever you go. There is immense power in this truth, once you truly grasp it, because it means you are not at the mercy of chance or the whims of others. You are not bound to relive your past or repeat your patterns. You have the power to choose a new state of being, a new idea of yourself, and when you do, the world must conform. But the shift must be real. It must be internal. It must be more than words. It must be a change in feeling, in belief, in identity. It is not enough to speak affirmations with your lips while your heart still beats with fear. It is not enough to visualize a new life while secretly believing it's out of reach. The outer world responds not to what you say, but to what you are. And what you are is determined by what you dwell upon, what you accept as possible, what you feel to be true in the silence of your soul. Your dominant state becomes your reality. When you begin to observe your life with this awareness, you will notice how precisely your inner world maps onto your outer experience. If you carry a sense of lack, you will notice how opportunities seem just out of reach. If you radiate gratitude and abundance within, you will find yourself walking into blessings without effort. It is not coincidence, it is correspondence. The world is not separate from you, it is the outpicturing of your inner state. This is why it is said that feeling is the secret, because feeling is the language by which your consciousness communicates with life. A single moment of genuine feeling carries more creative power than hours of mechanical repetition. When you imagine yourself as healthy, joyful, fulfilled, and feel it deeply, you are impressing that image onto the subconscious mind. And the subconscious does not question, it accepts. It begins to guide your actions, your thoughts, your reactions, until the outer world begins to reflect that inner certainty. But this transformation does not happen instantly. The old world may linger. The remnants of past beliefs may echo in your environment for a time. And here is where many falter. They judge their progress by what they see rather than by what they know. They return to fear, to doubt, to the familiar feeling of not having. And in doing so, they undo the work of their inner creation. Persistence is required, not because the universe is slow to respond, but because the mind must be fully saturated with the new assumption before it can take form. Your world will always confirm who you believe yourself to be. It cannot help it, it has no choice. It is a mirror, not a judge. And if you do not like what you see, the answer is not to fight the mirror, but to shift the image you project. Speak differently within. Imagine boldly. Feel deeply. And most importantly, remain loyal to the new vision, even when the old world tries to pull you back. It is not resistance you must apply, it is residence. You must take up residence in the new state until it becomes your natural dwelling. Imagine waking each morning and instead of reviewing your past failures or fears, you choose to enter a new scene in your mind. You walk through a home that is yours. You speak from the position of one who is loved, who is secure, who is thriving. You do this not once, but daily. And as you persist, your inner world shifts. You find yourself reacting differently, you speak differently, you walk with quiet confidence, and soon life begins to mirror that change. You meet new people, new doors open, opportunities arrive in the most unexpected ways. It is not magic, it is law. The law that states what is within must appear without. And so the work is always inward. When the outer world appears hostile or disappointing, turn inward and ask, what am I assuming? What story am I telling about myself? What image am I holding? And then change it. Not by force, but by faith, by vision, by feeling. Hold to the new image, even if nothing supports it yet, because the moment you do, the mirror must change. It is not a matter of if, it is only a matter of when. And that when is determined by how faithfully you live in the new state, how deeply you feel it, how completely you allow it to define you. Your life is not reacting to others, it is reacting to you. And the more you realize this, the more freedom you gain. You no longer blame, you no longer wait. You create quietly, boldly, from within. Because the world around you is not fixed, it is always listening, always watching for your next instruction. And that instruction is delivered through the assumptions you live by, the feelings you embody, and the visions you persistently entertain. The outer is simply the echo. The cause is always within. The law of creation is impersonal. It does not reward the good or punish the bad. It does not ask whether you are worthy or unworthy. It does not wait for you to become perfect. It simply responds to the state you occupy and the belief you persistently hold. This is what makes it both frightening and freeing. Frightening because it means you are always creating even in your unconsciousness. Freeing because it means you can begin creating deliberately at any moment, regardless of your past. The law is not emotional, it is precise. It functions with perfect consistency, just as gravity does, You do not have to be a saint to make use of it. You do not need approval. You simply need faith and the willingness to persist in the assumption of your desired state. This law does not ask if you are ready. It responds only to what you claim as real. You can say 1,000 affirmations, but if you do not believe them, if you do not feel them to be true, they hold no power. The law does not respond to words alone. It responds to feeling, to belief, to inner certainty. It is not about the number of times you repeat something, but the depth with which you feel it. One moment of deep, genuine belief can do more than weeks of empty repetition. The key is to feel from the state you desire, to live in that state inwardly, even before the world reflects it outwardly. People often ask, why hasn't it happened yet? But this question reveals a misunderstanding. The law is not delayed. It is immediate in its response to your dominant state. What takes time is not the law's function, but the stabilization of your own belief. If your faith wavers, if you imagine your desire one moment and then question it the next, you are sending mixed signals to the mirror of life. It reflects what you believe most persistently, not what you believe momentarily. That is why persistence is everything. The one who continues in faith, regardless of appearances, is the one who will see their vision made real. The law works whether you use it consciously or not. If you fill your mind with images of lack, fear, and failure, you will see those things reflected in your life, not because you are cursed or doomed, but because that is what you have inwardly accepted as true. Likewise, if you fill your mind with images of abundance, peace, and success, and you persist in those images until they feel natural, then the law must respond accordingly. It has no choice. It does not consider fairness. It mirrors belief. You do not need to struggle or beg. The law does not respond to desperation. It responds to inner knowing. When you imagine something and feel it real, you are giving the law its command. When you persist in that feeling, despite what you see, you are confirming that command. And when your inner state becomes unshakable, the outer must yield. It is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. The world bends to those who dare to remain loyal to the unseen. So many people believe they must earn their desires. They think they must prove themselves worthy through suffering or endless effort. But the law is not keeping score. It is not measuring your goodness. It is measuring your belief. Are you dwelling in the consciousness of what you want? Are you assuming it, not as a distant hope, but as a present fact? That is what activates the law. Not struggle, not merit, belief. And this is what makes the law available to everyone. You do not need anything outside yourself. No special education, no wealth, no connections. The only qualification is your willingness to believe, your willingness to feel the unseen as real. That is the true starting point of all transformation. Everything else is secondary. If you can hold the end in mind and feel it is true, without needing to know how or when it will come, you are already walking in alignment with the law. The difficulty for most people is not that they lack the ability to imagine. It is that they lack the discipline to remain faithful to the vision. They let the outer world dictate their belief. They pray for change while continuing to feel the same fear. They wish for love while assuming rejection. But the law does not respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you feel you already are. You must embody the change you seek. You must become it internally before it ever appears externally. You may think this is unfair, but it is actually the greatest justice, because it means no one can take your power away. No one can block your path unless you allow them to. No one can limit your destiny unless you agree to those limits. The law is impersonal, and because of that, it is perfectly just. It offers itself equally to all. The question is, will you use it deliberately? Will you claim your power to create through faith and persistence? When you begin to trust the law, truly trust it, something shifts within you. You stop reacting to appearances. You stop begging for change. You stop wondering if it will happen. Instead, you live from the end. You rest in the feeling of your fulfilled desire. You walk in the world with quiet assurance, knowing that the law is already working on your behalf. You don't need to chase anything. You become the embodiment of it, and life brings it to you. Faith is the engine, not blind faith, but intelligent, conscious faith. The kind of faith that knows the truth of imagination. The kind of faith that refuses to let go, not out of stubbornness, but out of certainty. When you hold to your vision with this kind of inner conviction, the law begins to move. Circumstances shift. People appear. Resources come, not through strain, but through alignment. The law does not require you to push, it requires you to assume. This is the simplicity that most overlook. They complicate the process with rituals, doubts, and unnecessary actions. But at the heart of it all is one question. What do you believe to be true about yourself and your life? That belief is the seed, that belief is the command. And if you persist in it, the law will obey. It cannot do otherwise. The world you see is nothing more than a reflection of the world within you. Every thought, every feeling, every assumption you hold is silently shaping your reality. There is no need to announce your desires, no need to plead, beg, or convince. The universe responds not to noise, but to the quiet certainty of knowing. The one who remains still, who moves in silence with unwavering faith, is the one who commands all things. When you understand that creation is finished, you cease the struggle. You no longer chase after that which is already yours. Instead, you embody it in your imagination, assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. There is a power in silence, a force greater than words. It is the quiet conviction that the world must mold itself around your inner state. The one who truly believes has no need to explain, defend, or seek validation. They rest in the knowing that what is seen is merely a shadow of what is imagined. Everything you desire is already within you, waiting for recognition. The moment you accept this truth, you withdraw from doubt, from desperation, from seeking approval. You do not need the world to confirm what you know in your heart. Act as silent, and you will get everything. The mind that is still, that remains undisturbed by appearances, is the mind that holds dominion. Your assumptions held with inner stillness will harden into fact. Reality is not created through effort, but through faith in the unseen. The one who remains unmoved by circumstances, who does not react but silently persists in their assumption, is the one who bends reality to their will. The secret is not in speaking, but in being. You do not need to declare to the world who you are. You only need to feel it within. Do not chase, do not force, do not fight. Simply assume and let it be. The world cannot help but conform to the quiet power of your imagination. When you act as silent, you move beyond resistance, beyond doubt, beyond delay. You become the living embodiment of your desire, and, in perfect stillness, everything flows to you. The world you experience is nothing more than a reflection of the world within you. Every moment, every event, every encounter is shaped by the assumptions you hold, whether consciously or unconsciously. You are not merely reacting to life, you are creating it moment by moment with the beliefs and emotions you carry within. What appears as external reality is not separate from you. It is a mirror, faithfully reflecting your inner state. If you believe in struggle, you will see struggle everywhere. If you believe in abundance, opportunities will appear effortlessly. The people you meet, the circumstances you face, and the events that unfold are all manifestations of the thoughts and assumptions you have accepted as true. This is why some seem to move through life with ease, while others face endless resistance. The difference lies not in the world itself, but in the way each person perceives and assumes their reality to be. There is no need to seek outside yourself for confirmation. The proof of this truth is in your own experiences. Look back at your life and notice how your strongest beliefs have shaped your journey. When you expected failure, did it not appear? When you felt unworthy, did you not encounter rejection? And in moments when you believed in yourself, when you carried an inner certainty of success, did the world not align to match that confidence? The illusion is that reality is something separate from you, something happening to you, but in truth, everything is happening through you. Every event is drawn to you by the assumptions you hold. If you walk through life believing the world is harsh and unforgiving, your experience will confirm this belief. If you instead carry the quiet assumption that life is always working in your favor, circumstances will bend to reflect that knowing. This is why silence is so powerful. The world does not respond to noise or struggle, but to the deep certainty within. You do not need to force things into being. You need only to assume and let it be. When you assume something is true, even before the evidence appears, reality has no choice but to conform. The unseen world is more real than the visible world, for what you hold in the invisible realm of imagination must inevitably take form. When you truly grasp this, you stop chasing, you stop pleading, you stop looking to others for answers. You become still and turn inward, recognizing that the power has been within you all along. Every desire you hold is already complete in the realm of imagination. Your only task is to assume its reality and allow the world to rearrange itself accordingly. This is not about wishful thinking. It is about accepting the truth that reality is fluid and shaped by the consciousness observing it. You do not need to struggle to change the external world. You only need to change the inner world, and the outer will follow. This is why those who live in a state of inner peace and certainty seem to attract all that they need effortlessly. They are not forcing reality to conform. They are simply aligning with what they already know to be true within themselves. It is not necessary to announce your desires or seek approval from others. The moment you seek validation, you affirm that you lack belief in your own assumption. The only confirmation you need is your own inner knowing. When you move in silence with absolute conviction, the world has no choice but to obey. There is nothing to prove, nothing to explain. The reality you live is the only evidence that matters, and it will always reflect the state you hold within. There is no randomness in life. The experiences you encounter are a direct response to your state of being. If you find yourself in situations that do not align with your desires, the answer is not to fight against them, but to shift your assumptions. Do not seek to change the reflection in the mirror. Change the image that the mirror is reflecting. The outer world is nothing more than a projection of your inner world. This is why those who remain silent in their assumptions are the ones who receive. They do not waste energy trying to convince others, for they know that reality is not changed through effort, but through being. They embody the truth of their desires without needing external confirmation. They do not beg for opportunities. They assume opportunities are already theirs. They do not chase love. They assume they are already loved. They do not fear loss. They assume they are always provided for, and the world responds accordingly. There is no force greater than the quiet assumption of truth. The one who believes with unwavering certainty does not need to speak. Their mere presence commands reality to align. This is not arrogance. It is the natural law of consciousness. When you truly know something to be yours, there is no need to discuss it, argue for it, or seek reassurance. You simply carry the feeling within, and the world conforms. Look at those who seem to have everything flow effortlessly to them. They are not loud, they are not desperate, they are not constantly seeking approval. They move in quiet confidence, knowing that their inner world dictates their outer world. They do not worry about how things will come to pass. They simply assume it is already done, and the details take care of themselves. If you wish to change any aspect of your life, you must begin within. Do not attempt to force the outer world into submission. Instead, shift your assumption, hold it in silence, and watch as the world reflects your new state of being. This is the greatest power you possess, the ability to create reality not through effort but through knowing. The one who understands this truth no longer fears circumstances, for they know that circumstances are fluid, ever changing in response to consciousness. Silence is not emptiness. It is the space where all creation begins. The less you speak of your desires, the more powerful they become. The more you hold them within, unshaken by appearances, the faster they manifest. Words may affirm, but it is the silent conviction that shapes reality. If you wish to see change, do not seek it outside of yourself. Become it within, and it will appear effortlessly. There is nothing outside of you that can alter your reality more than the assumptions you hold. You do not need to convince, force, or prove anything. You need only to assume and allow the world to reflect your assumption. The moment you grasp this, life transforms from a struggle to a dance of effortless manifestation. What you hold within is what you will see without. The key is to be still, to know, and to allow. Silence is a force more powerful than words. The world does not respond to noise, desperation, or struggle. It responds to the quiet, unwavering conviction of the one who knows. The one who truly believes has no need to explain, convince, or seek validation. They rest in the certainty of their assumption, and reality shapes itself around their inner state. Words may express desire, but it is the silent feeling of already having that desire that brings it into form. When you understand that creation is finished, you realize there is nothing to beg for, nothing to chase, nothing to prove. The need to speak of your desires, to seek reassurance, or to ask others for permission is a sign that you have not yet accepted them as real. The moment you assume something with absolute certainty, you feel no urge to announce it. You no longer ask, when will it happen? Because you already know it is done. It exists now in the unseen and will take shape in the visible world in its own perfect time. Silence is the language of knowing. When a person is truly confident in what they possess, they do not feel the need to declare it to the world. It is only those who doubt that feel compelled to seek approval. The quiet mind is the powerful mind, for it holds within it the secret of creation. Those who remain still, unmoved by circumstances, are the ones who shape reality. They do not react to appearances. They do not explain themselves to others. They embody the state of their desire in silence, and the world conforms. There is no greater resistance to manifestation than the habit of talking about your desires from a place of lack. Every time you speak of what you want as if you do not yet have it, you reinforce the idea that it is separate from you. The more you explain why you want something, the more you affirm its absence. Silence, on the other hand, is the ultimate act of faith. It says, I do not need to announce it because I already have it. It is the difference between hoping for something and knowing it is already yours. You must train yourself to withdraw from unnecessary words, to move in silence with the confidence of one who already possesses all that they seek. This is not about suppression or secrecy. It is about power. Power is not in talking. Power is in being. When you assume the state of your desire in stillness, without seeking validation, you create the space for it to manifest without resistance. The need to talk about something often stems from doubt, but when you eliminate doubt, the need to talk disappears. Look at those who move through life effortlessly, attracting all that they desire without struggle. They do not seek permission. They do not ask, do you think this will happen? They simply act as though it is already done. They carry themselves differently. They walk with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that the world bends to their assumptions. This is the secret of silence. It is not emptiness but fullness. It is the deep, unshakable awareness that everything you seek is already within you, waiting to be expressed. People who constantly talk about their plans, their dreams, their desires often do so because they are looking for reassurance. They want others to tell them it is possible. They want confirmation from the outside world before they dare to believe. But this is backward. Reality does not give you permission to believe. Your belief shapes reality. The moment you seek validation, you give your power away. The moment you explain, you introduce doubt. The moment you ask, do you think this will happen for me? You reveal that you are not yet convinced. The mind that is still, that moves without needing to declare itself, is the mind that attracts effortlessly. It is the quiet, unwavering assumption that manifests, not the loud declaration. The one who knows does not need to tell others what they are creating. They hold their vision in silence, nurturing it like a seed, knowing it will grow. They do not dig up the soil every day to check if the roots are forming. They do not ask others if the seed will become a tree. They trust the process and allow it to unfold naturally. Many people sabotage their manifestations by speaking too soon. The moment you talk about your desires from a place of lack, you reinforce the feeling of not having. The moment you seek external confirmation, you introduce the possibility of doubt. You must learn to remain silent, to guard your inner world from interference. Not everyone will understand your vision. Not everyone will support your belief. And that does not matter, because their opinion has no power unless you accept it. You must move in silence, trusting that what you have assumed will materialize in perfect timing. There is no need to force, no need to push, no need to convince. Everything you desire is already yours in the unseen. Your only task is to align with it internally, to hold the state of already having it, and to let the world catch up. This is the power of silence. It is the energy of certainty, the energy of creation. When you practice silence, you free yourself from the influence of external opinions. You no longer need approval because you already know. You no longer need to explain because you are certain. You no longer react to appearances because you trust in the unseen. This is true power, the ability to remain still while the world rearranges itself to match your inner state. The loudest force in the universe is not noise, but conviction. The one who moves in silence, who assumes in stillness, is the one who manifests effortlessly. The more you trust in the unseen, the less you feel the need to talk about it. The more you believe in the inevitability of your desires, the less you seek reassurance. You simply embody the feeling of already having it, and the world must respond. You are always creating, whether you realize it or not. Every assumption you hold, every thought you entertain, every emotion you sustain is shaping the world around you. Every emotion you sustain is shaping the world around you. The only question is whether you are doing it deliberately or unconsciously. When you move in silence, you take control of the creative process. You no longer scatter your energy by speaking of your desires with uncertainty. You hold them within, like a secret known only to you and the universe, and you watch as they take form before your eyes. Silence is not inaction. It is the highest form of action. It is the act of trusting so deeply that you no longer feel the need to ask, explain, or seek confirmation. It is the act of being so certain that your desires are already fulfilled that you no longer question their arrival. This is the power of silence. It is the power of knowing. And the one who knows does not need to speak. Everything in life is a reflection of what you assume to be true. The world does not give you what you want. It gives you what you expect. This expectation is not in your words, but in your state of being. You may say that you desire something, but if your inner world contradicts that statement, your reality will reflect the inner truth, not the spoken words. This is why silence is more powerful than speech, because manifestation does not happen through words alone, but through the silent feeling of already having that which you seek. Most people believe they need to ask, plead, or explain their desires to the world to receive them. They think that by talking about their goals, sharing them with others, or seeking advice, they will bring them closer. But in truth, this often creates the opposite effect. The more you speak about what you want, the more you reveal that you do not yet have it. The more you seek validation from others, the more you reinforce the idea that you are uncertain. And the more you explain why you want something, the more you confirm its absence. The universe does not respond to words, it responds to states of being. When you fully accept that your desire is already yours, you have no need to discuss it. You no longer feel the urge to ask when it will come, because you know it is already here in the unseen. The need to talk about something constantly stems from doubt. But when you eliminate doubt, the need to speak disappears. You become calm, composed, and still. You no longer seek confirmation from the outside world because you have already given it to yourself internally. This is the power of silence. It is not emptiness, but the fullness of absolute certainty. Silence is not just the absence of words, it is the presence of unwavering belief. When you hold a desire in your heart and assume it is done, you radiate a quiet confidence that does not need to be announced. Think of the most powerful individuals. Their presence alone commands attention. They do not need to prove themselves with words because their energy speaks for them. They have mastered the art of silent manifestation, where their inner world is so aligned with their desires that reality must conform. People often make the mistake of thinking that action alone creates results. They believe that by forcing, pushing, or constantly discussing their desires, they will make them happen faster. But manifestation does not work through force. It works through alignment. The moment you stop trying to control the external world and instead shift your inner state, everything begins to move in your favor. The moment you stop talking about your desires as something you hope for and start living as though they are already yours, the world rearranges itself accordingly. Silence is the strongest affirmation. Every time you resist the urge to discuss your plans from a place of uncertainty, you strengthen your belief. Every time you hold your desires within, nurturing them in your imagination without seeking approval, you reinforce their reality. This is why those who manifest effortlessly are often the ones who say the least about what they are creating. They do not need to convince anyone because they have already convinced themselves. The more you talk about something, the more you create space for doubt. When you share your desires with others, you open the door for their opinions, their fears, and their limitations to influence you. Someone may tell you it is impossible, that you are not capable, or that you should lower your expectations. If you are not strong in your assumption, their words may plant seeds of uncertainty in your mind. This is why it is often best to remain silent. Guard your vision, protect your dreams from interference. Let them grow in the stillness of your own conviction. Manifestation is an inner process. The world you see is nothing more than a projection of your internal state. If you constantly speak of your desires as something in the future, they will always remain in the future. But if you embody them now, without needing to declare them, they will materialize naturally. The most powerful creators are those who do not announce their intentions, but live as though their desires are already fulfilled. They do not wait for external proof before believing. They believe first, and the proof follows. Many people think they need to do more to manifest their desires. They believe that if they just find the right technique, the right affirmation, or the right strategy, their reality will shift. But manifestation is not about doing, it is about being. You do not need to chase what is already yours. You do not need to ask when it will come, because it is already here. You do not need to convince yourself with words, because true conviction is silent. Look at nature. Does the sun announce its rising? Does a tree ask permission to grow? Does the ocean seek validation before it moves? No, they simply exist in their natural state, and everything around them responds accordingly. The same is true for you. When you align with the feeling of already having what you desire, the world must conform. You do not need to force it, you do not need to beg for it, and you do not need to explain it. You simply become it and it appears. This is why those who truly understand the power of creation move in silence. They do not announce their plans before they have materialized. They do not seek approval from others because they already approve of themselves. They do not explain their process because they know that reality is not created through words but through states of being. They embody their desires quietly, and the world reshapes itself in response. There is a reason why the phrase "move in silence" holds such power. It is not about secrecy, it is about certainty. When you know something is already yours, you do not feel the need to announce it. When you trust in the unseen, you do not seek external proof. When you embody the state of your desire, the universe has no choice but to reflect it back to you. The need to talk about your desires often comes from fear. The fear that if you do not speak them into existence, they will not happen. But true creation does not require words. It requires belief. It requires the silent, unwavering assumption that what you want is already yours. The moment you stop looking outside for confirmation and start trusting in your inner world, everything begins to shift. Silence is the energy of completion. It is the state of knowing that nothing more needs to be said because it is already done. It is the space where manifestations take root and grow without interference. It is the quiet confidence that moves mountains, shifts timelines, and reshapes reality. When you understand this, you will no longer feel the need to seek validation, to explain, or to ask for permission. You will simply be, and in that being, you will receive everything you have ever desired. The unseen world is more real than what you can touch, hear, or see with your physical senses. Everything you desire already exists, not in the external world, but within your consciousness. What you hold as true within will inevitably manifest outwardly. Most people are trapped in the illusion that reality is fixed, that circumstances dictate their future, and that they must struggle, fight, or convince others to get what they want. But the truth is far simpler and far more powerful. Creation is finished. You are not creating something new. You are aligning yourself with what already exists. The moment you assume something to be true, it is set into motion. But most people do not trust the unseen. They look around at their present conditions and allow them to dictate what they believe. If they do not see evidence of their desire, they assume it is not coming. If others do not agree with their vision, they begin to doubt. But manifestation does not work that way. Reality is not created from the outside in, it is created from the inside out. Silence is the key because it represents unwavering faith. When you know something is yours, you do not need to talk about it, explain it, or seek reassurance. The very act of looking for validation suggests that you do not yet believe. This is why those who master the art of silent assumption manifest effortlessly. They do not announce their desires, they embody them. They do not wait for proof, they become the proof. Consider how reality works. The world you experience is simply a mirror reflecting back what you assume to be true. If you hold the assumption that you are wealthy even when your bank account says otherwise, the world must eventually conform. If you assume you are loved even when no one is expressing love to you, circumstances will shift to match your inner conviction. This is not wishful thinking, it is the law of consciousness. The external world is always catching up to the state you hold within. The reason silence is so powerful is that it removes the interference. When you speak about your desires from a place of lack, you introduce doubt. When you explain your vision to others, you invite their limitations into your reality. When you seek reassurance, you admit uncertainty. But when you hold your assumptions quietly, without seeking confirmation, you remain in pure alignment with your desire. There is no resistance, no contradiction. Only the unwavering knowing that what you seek is already yours. Imagine planting a seed. The moment you plant it, you trust that it will grow. You do not dig it up every day to check if it is sprouting. You do not ask others if they believe it will grow. You simply know that given time, it must emerge. This is how manifestation works. The assumption is the seed, and silence is the soil in which it takes root. The more you disturb it with doubt, the more you delay its growth. But when you hold it with quiet confidence, nature takes its course and it appears effortlessly. This is why those who truly understand the power of assumption do not speak of their desires as something they hope for. They live as though they already have them. They do not concern themselves with how or when it will happen. They do not question whether it is possible. They know that once they have assumed it, reality has no choice but to conform. There is no need to convince anyone of your vision. Most people will not understand, and that is perfectly fine. They do not need to. Their beliefs are irrelevant to your manifestation. The moment you stop seeking approval and instead focus on embodying your desire, you accelerate its unfolding. It is not your job to make others believe in your dream. It is your job to believe in it so completely that the world cannot help but reflect it. Silence is not inaction. It is the most powerful action you can take. It is the act of standing firm in your assumption, refusing to be swayed by appearances and trusting in the unseen. It is the act of ignoring all evidence that contradicts your vision and knowing that what you desire is already a reality. It is the ability to walk through life with the quiet confidence of someone who has already received what they asked for. Most people fail to manifest because they constantly check for results. They assume their desire for a moment, but then look around and see nothing has changed. They get discouraged, doubt creeps in, and they abandon their assumption. This is like planting a seed and then digging it up every day to see if it has sprouted. The process is interrupted and the manifestation is delayed. But when you hold your assumption in silence, without needing immediate proof, you allow it to unfold naturally. The world you see is nothing more than a reflection of your past assumptions. If you do not like what you see, do not fight against it. Change your assumption. The moment you accept something as true in your inner world, the outer world begins to rearrange itself. It may not happen overnight, but it must happen. The law does not fail. You do not need to speak about your assumption. You do not need to share it with others. You do not need to explain why you believe it is possible. Your belief alone is enough. When you hold your assumption in silence, you maintain its purity. You do not allow the doubts of others to influence you. You do not waver in your conviction. You simply know. And in that knowing, everything shifts. The most powerful manifestations happen in stillness. They do not require force, effort, or struggle. They do not require external validation. They happen quietly, effortlessly in the minds of those who understand that reality bends to their assumptions. The moment you stop needing the world to confirm your desires and instead trust in your own inner knowing, you step into true power. Look at those who achieve great things. They do not spend their time explaining their plans to others. They do not seek approval before taking action. They do not announce their every move. They move in silence, fully confident in their vision, and allow their results to speak for them. The world will try to distract you, to make you question, to make you doubt. But your power lies in your ability to remain unmoved, to hold your assumption regardless of what anyone says, to trust in what you know to be true, even when there is no evidence yet. The moment you master this, you will no longer struggle. You will no longer seek, and you will no longer doubt. You will simply know. And in that knowing, everything you desire will become inevitable. There is a power in moving in silence, in keeping your assumptions sacred, in holding the vision without needing to share it with the world. The greatest transformations happen in stillness, where the mind is free from outside interference. The moment you speak of your desires, you invite opinions, doubts, and contradictions from the world around you. But when you remain quiet, you guard your assumption, protecting it from anything that might weaken your belief. The world is filled with noise, distractions, and countless voices telling you what is possible and what is not. If you allow yourself to be swayed by external opinions, you dilute the power of your assumption. But when you refuse to engage in discussions about whether or not something is achievable, when you hold your vision without seeking validation, you keep your energy focused. The more you discuss your dreams with others, the more you allow their limited perspectives to influence you. Most people live in a world dictated by external circumstances. They believe only in what they can see and touch. When you tell them of your vision, they measure it against their own experiences, their own limitations, and their own fears. They project their doubts onto you, and if you are not careful, you begin to absorb them. There is an incredible strength in holding a desire in silence, in carrying an inner knowing that needs no confirmation. When you truly believe in something, you do not need to announce it. You simply embody it. You walk as if it is already done. You move through life with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that reality will shift to match their inner state. Those who understand the power of assumption do not spend their time convincing others. They do not explain, they do not argue, they do not justify. They remain steadfast, knowing that their internal world will inevitably shape the external world. Manifestation happens in the unseen, in the depths of consciousness. The moment you assume something to be true, the process begins. But the moment you start looking for validation, you introduce resistance. You send a signal that you do not fully trust the unseen. The very act of explaining, of seeking reassurance, suggests a lack of faith. True faith requires no explanation. It does not need approval. It does not need anyone else to agree. It simply is. When you hold an assumption in silence, you give it the space to grow uninterrupted. Think of a flame that is just beginning to burn. If you expose it to too much wind, it will flicker and die. But if you protect it, if you shield it from external forces, it will grow stronger until it burns on its own, unstoppable. Your assumption is the same. If you expose it too early, if you allow the world to challenge it, to poke holes in it, you weaken its power. But if you keep it within, nurturing it, believing in it, without needing the world's confirmation, it gains strength until it becomes your reality. Many people fail to manifest what they desire because they talk too much. They share their dreams with those who do not understand. They invite unnecessary opinions. They seek reassurance when none is needed. Every time they do this, they waver in their belief. They allow doubt to creep in. They give others power over their vision. But those who manifest effortlessly understand that silence is not just a preference, it is a necessity. It is a shield that protects the assumption from interference. The most successful individuals, those who move through life with grace and ease, have mastered the art of silent manifestation. They do not need to prove anything to anyone. They do not need external confirmation. They trust in the unseen, and because they trust, reality bends to their will. They do not react to what is in front of them. They act from a place of inner knowing. When something has already been assumed within, the external world has no choice but to rearrange itself to match that assumption. There is no need to announce what you are manifesting. There is no need to explain why you believe it will happen. There is no need to justify your faith. The more you explain, the more you dilute the purity of your assumption. The moment you stop seeking reassurance, the moment you stop talking about your desires as something that might happen, and instead embody the knowing that they already exist, everything begins to shift. Silence allows you to stay in alignment with your desire without interference. When you keep your assumptions to yourself, you do not have to defend them, you do not have to justify them, you do not have to engage with those who do not understand. You simply hold them within, nurturing them until they manifest effortlessly. Most people are unaware of the power they give away when they discuss their dreams with others. Every conversation, every explanation, every attempt to convince someone else is energy being scattered. But when you remain quiet, when you move in silence, all of that energy stays focused on your vision. This does not mean you cannot speak at all. It means you must be intentional with your words. Speak as if your desire is already a reality, not as if it is something you are waiting for. Do not entertain conversations that introduce doubt. Do not seek validation. Simply live as if you already have what you desire. The external world will catch up. Those who understand this principle never chase, never beg, never plead. They do not need to. They know that what they have assumed in consciousness must appear in the physical world. They do not discuss what they are manifesting because they know it is already done. They do not seek confirmation because they do not need it. They move in silence, fully confident in the power of their assumption. The world respects those who carry an air of certainty, who do not explain themselves, who do not ask for permission to believe in their own vision. There is a power in walking through life as if you already have everything you desire. There is an energy that others can feel, a quiet strength that commands attention without ever needing to demand it. When you embody this, when you hold your vision with unwavering certainty and without the need for external validation, you become unstoppable. Everything you desire is already yours. The only thing that can delay it is your own doubt, your own need for confirmation, your own willingness to allow others to influence your belief. But when you hold your vision in silence, When you refuse to let the world shake your conviction, you become a force that nothing can stand against. Move in silence, trust in the unseen, and watch as the world bends to meet your assumptions. Silence is the greatest power in creation. It is the space in which all things come into being, the unseen force that shapes the visible world. The mind, when still and unwavering, directs the course of reality with precision. Most people speak too soon, revealing their intentions before they have taken root, weakening the very power they seek to harness. They share their dreams with those who do not understand, seeking validation from minds bound by limitation. But creation does not require external approval. It only requires belief, held in absolute certainty, undisturbed by the opinions of others. When a desire is first formed, it is fragile, like a seed newly planted in the soil. If it is exposed too soon, if it is questioned, doubted, or ridiculed, it may never take root. The world does not respond to wishes, hopes, or vague desires. It responds to conviction, to assumptions so strong that it does not waver in the face of reality. This is why silence is essential. It protects the seed until it has grown strong enough to withstand the outside world. You are always becoming what you are conscious of being. There is no need to chase, to force, or to struggle. The life you desire is already yours in consciousness, waiting for its appointed hour to unfold in the physical world. The only requirement is that you assume it to be so. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you do not concern yourself with when or how it will happen. You live in the awareness that all things move in divine order, that every event, every person, and every circumstance is perfectly orchestrated to bring forth the manifestation of your inner state. The outer world is nothing more than a reflection of your inner world. What you accept as true within must by law become visible without. Impatience is the symptom of doubt. It is the mind's way of saying, I do not believe. But belief does not demand evidence, it creates evidence. To truly believe is to rest in the knowing that what you desire is already on its way. There is no need to force open doors that will swing wide at the perfect moment. There is no need to rush what is already unfolding. When you plant a seed, you do not dig it up each day to see if it is growing. You trust the process. You water it. You give it light, and you allow time to bring forth what is already contained within it. So it is with your desires. The moment you accept them as real, the seed is planted. All that remains is to persist in that assumption, to dwell in the state of fulfillment, knowing that everything comes in its right time. Circumstances do not dictate your reality. Your consciousness does. When you persist in the assumption that all is unfolding perfectly, the world bends to match your inner conviction. Delays are illusions of the senses. The only delay is in your belief that you must wait. But in the unseen, all things are already finished. The only task is to align yourself with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and let time reveal what is already yours. You do not chase what is meant for you, you become it. And when you become it, it finds you. What you assume to be true in your consciousness must manifest in your physical world. There is no other way it can be. Your reality is not determined by outside circumstances, nor is it shaped by fate or luck. It is born from within, from the thoughts you persist in entertaining and the emotions you allow yourself to dwell in. Everything you experience is a direct reflection of the state of consciousness you occupy. If you wish to change your life, you must begin by changing your assumption. Assumption is not mere wishful thinking. It is not daydreaming without conviction. Assumption is the act of fully embodying a belief so deeply that it becomes second nature, so deeply that it feels as real as the ground beneath your feet. When you assume something to be true, you no longer question it, nor do you seek evidence to support it. Instead, you live from it, thinking, feeling, and acting as though it is already so. And because consciousness is the only reality, what you assume within must inevitably harden into fact. The world around you is not separate from you. It is not something happening to you. It is an expression of your inner state, a mirror that reflects the assumptions you hold about yourself, others, and life itself. If you assume that you are lucky, fortunate, and divinely guided, life will conform to that belief. presenting you with opportunities and synchronicities that align with your state of mind. If, on the other hand, you assume that life is difficult, that success is hard-earned, and that happiness is fleeting, the world will reflect those beliefs back to you as well. There is no escaping this law. You are always proving yourself right, whether you are conscious of it or not. Many people move through life unaware of their assumptions, believing themselves to be victims of circumstance. They look at their experiences and say, "This is just the way things are," never realizing that it is their own inner world that has created the conditions they observe. They do not see that they have the power to change their reality simply by assuming something new. Instead, they react to life, reinforcing their old beliefs and wondering why nothing changes. But those who understand the power of assumption know that nothing in their external world has any real substance until they give it meaning. They do not wait for circumstances to change before shifting their beliefs. They change their beliefs first, knowing that the world will rearrange itself to match their inner conviction. There is no need to force or struggle. The moment you assume something to be true, reality begins moving to align with your assumption. The unseen forces of the universe start working in your favor, orchestrating events, circumstances, and encounters that lead to the fulfillment of your belief. This is why those who understand the power of assumption appear to move through life with ease. They do not fight against reality. They mold it from within. They do not beg or plead for things to happen. They know that everything must come in due time because they have already assumed its existence. The greatest mistake one can make is to assume lack, limitation, or failure. To persist in the belief that you are unworthy, that things never work out for you, or that success is reserved for others, is to condemn yourself to a life of struggle. These assumptions, though invisible, become the architects of your reality. The mind, ever faithful to your beliefs, will seek out proof to reinforce them. If you believe that you are always overlooked, you will notice every instance in which you are ignored while filtering out the moments in which you are appreciated. If you assume that money is scarce, your mind will highlight every financial obstacle and dismiss any evidence to the contrary. You are always experiencing the world through the lens of your assumptions, whether you recognize it or not. But just as negative assumptions shape your world, so too can positive ones. The moment you shift your inner state and assume abundance, love, success, and happiness as your natural state of being, the world must reflect it back to you. The key is persistence. One moment of belief is not enough to override years of conditioning. You must live in the new assumption daily, refusing to waver even when the outer world has yet to catch up. This is where most people falter. They assume something new for a day or two, but when they do not see immediate evidence, they revert to their old ways of thinking. They check the outer world for confirmation, and when they do not find it, they abandon their new assumption, reinforcing the old one. But assumption does not work on external validation. It works on internal conviction. You must persist in your new belief as if it were already true, without needing proof. Only then will the world conform to your inner reality. Time is irrelevant when it comes to assumption. The only thing that matters is the depth of your conviction. Some manifestations appear instantaneously because there is no doubt or resistance in the mind of the one assuming. Others take time because old beliefs must be undone and the individual must learn to trust in the unseen before the evidence appears. But in every case, assumption is the cause and reality is the effect. There is no exception to this rule. When you understand this, you stop looking to the world for validation. You no longer seek signs, nor do you let temporary appearances dictate your state of being. You assume what you desire as fact, and you walk in that knowing, completely unmoved by what the senses tell you. You recognize that the physical world is merely the shadow of the unseen, and just as a shadow cannot exist without a source, your external reality cannot exist without your inner state. Change the inner and the outer must follow. This is why those who assume success, joy, and abundance live lives filled with those very things. They are not lucky, they are not special, they are simply operating by law, whether they realize it or not. Their confidence is not arrogance, it is certainty. They do not need proof because they have already assumed the truth within, and they know that assumption must lead to realization. You have been given the greatest power, the ability to choose your assumptions. You are not bound by the past, nor are you limited by what others believe to be possible. The only question that matters is this: what are you assuming to be true about yourself and your world? Because whatever you assume, whether consciously or unconsciously, is the reality you will experience. If you wish to change your life, begin now. Assume that you are already the person you desire to be. Assume that your dreams are already fulfilled. Assume that everything you need is already within your grasp. And then live in that state with absolute conviction. Do not wait for proof. Do not second guess. Simply assume it and let reality shift accordingly. The world will always mirror back to you what you believe to be true. When you understand this, you no longer react to circumstances, you create them. You no longer seek outside validation, you declare your truth from within. And as you persist in your assumption, life will bend to accommodate your belief, for it has no choice but to do so. Everything unfolds at the right time when you remain faithful to your inner vision. There is no need to rush, no need to force, and no need to worry about when or how things will happen. The moment you assume something to be true, it is already set in motion. The unseen forces of creation begin working in perfect harmony, aligning every detail in ways you cannot yet perceive. Your only task is to remain in the state of knowing, to trust in the inevitability of your desire coming to pass. Time is an illusion of the senses. It is only in the physical world that things appear to unfold in a sequence. But in the unseen realm, everything already exists in its entirety. There is no past or future, only the eternal present. The moment you conceive a desire and accept it as a reality within, it is already yours. The only reason it does not appear instantly is because your mind still operates within the framework of time. You believe that things must take time, that processes must unfold, that certain steps must be taken before something can manifest. But in truth, creation is finished. Every possible version of your life already exists, waiting for you to step into the state where it becomes visible to you. The delay between assuming something to be true and seeing it in your physical world is not a sign that nothing is happening. It is simply the unfolding of events in the most natural way, in perfect order. The mind, conditioned by the physical world, tends to panic when it does not see immediate results. It begins to doubt, to question, to worry if things are really working. This doubt introduces resistance, slowing down the very thing you desire. But when you understand that all things are moving according to divine order, you rest. You no longer worry about when something will come because you know it is already on its way. Consider the process of planting a seed. When you plant a seed in the ground, you do not stand over it in frustration, demanding it to sprout immediately. You trust that beneath the soil things are happening. Roots are forming, the seed is expanding, and at the right time, it will break through the surface. If you were to dig up the seed every day to check its progress, you would disrupt its growth. The same principle applies to your manifestations. The moment you assume something to be true, the seed is planted. Every thought, every feeling of certainty, every moment spent in the state of fulfillment is like watering that seed. The more you nurture it with faith and persistence, the more naturally it unfolds. And just as the seed does not struggle to become a tree, your desires do not struggle to become reality. They simply grow, as all things do, in their perfect time. Many people hinder their manifestations by focusing on time. They set deadlines, they become impatient, and they constantly look to the external world for proof. But faith does not require proof. Faith knows that the moment something is accepted within, it must appear without. The need for urgency only stems from doubt. The mind that is truly convinced does not rush. It does not worry. It simply knows. The universe does not make mistakes. There is no such thing as being too late or too early. Everything unfolds in the most precise way, in the most perfect sequence, even when the mind cannot yet see the logic behind it. Often, what appears to be a delay is simply the rearrangement of reality to bring about the best possible outcome. You may think you need something immediately, but if it had arrived at that moment, it would not have been as fulfilling as it could be. There may be unseen factors at play, people you have yet to meet, opportunities that need time to align. The mind, limited in its perception, sees only the present circumstances and assumes that nothing is happening. But reality is always shifting, always arranging itself in accordance with your assumptions. Consider a person who assumes they are already successful. They do not yet see physical evidence, but they persist in the belief that success is inevitable. Over time, opportunities arise, doors open, and seemingly random events unfold to lead them exactly where they need to be. Had they doubted, had they constantly questioned and forced things, they may have interfered with the natural flow. But because they trusted in divine timing, everything unfolded in perfect order. It is not your job to figure out how things will happen. Your only task is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist in that state. The mind will often try to take control, to analyze and strategize, to demand answers about how something will unfold. But the how is never your concern. Reality itself will shape events in ways far beyond your comprehension. Your work is to remain faithful to your assumption, to trust that the right people, the right opportunities, and the right circumstances will arise exactly when needed. Fear and impatience create resistance. The moment you begin to doubt, to stress about timing, to question whether things are truly working, you disrupt the process. You move out of the state of knowing and into the state of uncertainty, which manifests as further delays. But the moment you relax, the moment you surrender fully to the knowing that everything is happening exactly as it should, you allow things to unfold effortlessly. Think of a river flowing toward the ocean. The river does not rush, it does not panic, it does not force its way. It simply flows, knowing that its destination is inevitable. If an obstacle appears in its path, it does not fight against it. It moves around it, continuing its journey with ease. So too must you trust in the flow of life. When you know that what you desire is already done, you do not struggle. You allow things to unfold naturally, without fear, without doubt, without resistance. This is the power of faith in divine timing. It removes struggle, it eliminates worry, and it allows you to live in a state of peace, knowing that all things are coming to you in their perfect moment. The impatient mind sees delay as a problem, but the knowing mind understands that delay is only the necessary unfolding of events in perfect harmony. What is yours cannot be taken from you, and what is meant to be will always find its way to you. When you operate from this state of trust, life becomes effortless. You no longer feel the need to push, to chase, to manipulate circumstances. You live in the end knowing that everything is already done, and you let time reveal what is already yours. You do not fear the passing days or worry about when things will happen, because you know that they are already set in motion. The moment you assumed it, it was done. Now it simply unfolds. This is the secret that those who truly understand creation live by. They do not rush, they do not force, they do not beg. They assume, they persist, and they trust. They know that time is only an illusion, that all things are unfolding exactly as they should, and that what is meant for them will arrive precisely when they are ready to receive it. There is no need to check for signs, no need to wonder if things are working, no need to question whether you are on the right path. The path has already been laid out the moment you assumed it to be. Your only task is to walk in faith, to live in the end, and to trust that everything is coming to you in the most perfect way, at the most perfect time. Your imagination is the blueprint of reality. Every experience, every encounter, every opportunity that comes into your life is drawn from the invisible world of your thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions. The outer world does not shape your life. It merely reflects what you have accepted as true within. This is why the most powerful thing you can do is assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. The moment you truly feel it real, the universe begins to arrange itself to make it so. There is no force greater than imagination. It is the divine power within you, the key to shaping your world according to your desires. Most people live as prisoners of their external circumstances, believing that life happens to them. They react to events, they wait for conditions to change, they believe that something outside of themselves holds the key to their happiness. But the truth is the opposite. Life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. Everything you experience is a projection of the state you dwell in. If you see lack in the world, it is because you are unconsciously holding on to the idea of lack within. If you feel powerless, it is because you have assumed a state where power is absent. The moment you change your assumption, your reality shifts. Think of your imagination as a painter standing before a blank canvas. Every thought, every feeling, every assumption is a brushstroke that shapes the final picture. Most people are painting unconsciously, unaware that they are the ones holding the brush. They fill their canvas with images of doubt, fear, and limitation, and then wonder why their world is filled with struggle. But the moment you become aware of your creative power, everything changes. You no longer react to the world, you create it. You take full control of the brush and begin to paint only what you wish to see. Imagination is the bridge between the unseen and the seen. It is not just a place of fantasy or wishful thinking. It is the realm where reality is formed. Everything that has ever been created by man, every invention, every great achievement, every masterpiece, began as an idea, a vision in the mind of its creator. The Wright brothers imagined flight before it was possible. Edison saw the electric light in his mind before he brought it into reality. Every great innovator, every success story, every dream fulfilled began in the realm of imagination. They did not wait for the world to give them proof. They believed in what they saw within, and through that belief they made it real. When you assume something to be true in imagination, you shift into a state where it must come to pass. You no longer hope or wish for it, you know it is already done. This is the secret of effortless manifestation. It is not about forcing things to happen, but about dwelling in the feeling of already having them. When you truly feel something real in imagination, you no longer seek it outside of yourself. You walk with the confidence that it is already yours, and the world must conform to that belief. Time does not separate you from your desire, only your assumptions do. If you believe something is far away, it will remain far away. If you believe it is already done, it will come to you naturally, in perfect order. The greatest illusion people fall into is believing that they must wait for circumstances to change before they can feel the reality of their desires. They believe they must first see proof, first achieve certain conditions, first overcome obstacles. But creation does not work this way. The external world is a delayed reflection of the inner world. If you wait for external proof before assuming your desire is real, you will wait forever. But if you accept it as real now, reality has no choice but to bring it into form. Everything you see in your life today is the result of past assumptions. The relationships you have, the career you are in, the opportunities before you, all of it was first accepted as true in your imagination, whether consciously or unconsciously. This is why the key to changing your life is not in struggling with external conditions, but in changing your inner assumptions. When you assume something to be true, reality moves to confirm it. Think of a person who believes they are unlucky. They walk through life expecting things to go wrong, and so they do. They miss opportunities because they assume they will fail. They attract situations that confirm their belief in bad luck, but if that same person decided to assume that they were lucky, their entire reality would shift. They would begin to see opportunities where before they saw obstacles. They would move with confidence, attracting people and events that align with their new assumption. The world outside would seem to change, but in truth it was their inner world that shifted first. This is why you must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The moment you embody the state of already having what you desire, you place yourself in the timeline where it becomes real. You do not need to figure out how it will happen. You do not need to force it into being. Your only task is to dwell in the assumption that it is already done. The world will then adjust itself to bring you what you already believe to be true. Doubt is the only thing that delays your manifestation. The moment you begin to question whether your assumption is working, you step out of the state of knowing and into the state of uncertainty. This back and forth, this wavering between belief and doubt, keeps you in a cycle where nothing seems to change. But when you hold firm to your assumption, refusing to accept anything less than its fulfillment, the world must yield. Your imagination is the seed from which all things grow. If you plant the seed of certainty, the fruit will come in perfect time. You do not need to keep checking the soil to see if it is growing. You do not need to question whether the process is working. You simply trust, knowing that what you have imagined is already real. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you move as if it is already done. You think, speak, and act from that place of certainty. You no longer hope you know. You no longer seek you have found. The world may not yet reflect it, but you do not need the world's confirmation. You need only your own. This is the secret of true manifestation. It is not about chasing your desires, but about becoming the version of yourself that already has them. The moment you assume that state, everything shifts. People, circumstances, and events will align in ways beyond your understanding. You will be led to the right place at the right time. You will meet the right people, encounter the right opportunities, and experience life unfolding in ways that seem almost magical. But in truth, it is not magic, it is simply the law in action. Your imagination is your reality. What you accept within will be made visible without. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, persist in that assumption, and know that the world must conform. Everything that is yours is already waiting for you. You need only step into the state where it becomes real. The outer world is merely a mirror of your inner state. Every experience, every encounter, and every opportunity that unfolds before you is simply a reflection of what you have accepted is true within yourself. There is no separation between your inner world and the events that take place in your external reality. They are one and the same, intricately connected by the invisible power of assumption. If you wish to change what appears in the world around you, you must first change the assumptions you hold within. It is not the circumstances that dictate your life. It is your consciousness, the very state in which you dwell. Most people believe that life happens to them, that they are at the mercy of forces beyond their control. They look at the conditions of their lives and conclude that these external factors determine their happiness, success, or failure. But they have it backward. Life is not happening to you. It is responding to you. It is a reflection of the ideas, beliefs, and states that you entertain in your mind. If you see struggle, if you experience hardship, it is because you have unconsciously accepted those experiences as part of your reality. If you see ease, abundance, and joy, it is because you have assumed those as your truth. Everything you encounter is simply your consciousness pushed out into form. If you wish to change your reality, you must first change your inner assumption. The world outside cannot shift until you do. The key is not in struggling with external circumstances, not in fighting against what you see, but in shifting your state of being. You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, knowing with certainty that it is already yours. The moment you do this, the world begins to move in ways you could never predict, orchestrating events, people, and circumstances to reflect your new assumption. There is no need for force, no need for struggle, only the quiet, unwavering knowing that what you have accepted within must manifest without. Think of someone who sees themselves as unworthy of success. No matter how hard they try, no matter how many opportunities come their way, they will always find a way to sabotage their progress. They will unconsciously attract situations that confirm their belief in their own lack of worth. They may blame bad luck, difficult circumstances, or the actions of others, but the truth is that their external world is only a mirror of their inner assumption. If they were to change their state, to assume that they are already successful, already worthy, already abundant, their entire experience would shift. The world outside would reshape itself to reflect this new belief, and opportunities that once seemed out of reach would suddenly appear effortlessly. It is not about wishing, hoping, or trying to manipulate external conditions. The secret lies in living in the assumption that what you desire is already yours. The moment you accept this as true, you move into the state where it must be made manifest. You do not need to force things to happen. They will happen naturally as a reflection of the new state you occupy. The world around you is fluid, malleable, shaped entirely by the consciousness you hold within. Everything in your life right now is the result of past assumptions. The relationships you have, the career you are in, the people you meet, every detail is a reflection of what you have previously accepted as true. If you wish to create a different reality, you must assume a different state of being. There is no need to wait, no need to ask how or when things will change. The only question is, what do you accept as true right now? The moment you shift your assumption, reality begins to rearrange itself to align with that new belief. Consider a person who constantly struggles with money. They look at their bank account, at their bills, and they feel lack. They assume scarcity, and so scarcity is all they experience. Even if they receive money, it quickly slips away because their dominant assumption is that they do not have enough. But if they were to shift their inner state, to truly assume that they are abundant, that wealth is their natural state, everything would change. They would no longer see lack, they would see opportunities for wealth everywhere. Money would flow to them in ways they never expected, not because they chased it, but because they assumed a state where financial abundance was inevitable. The external world is not fixed. It is not separate from you. It is an ever-changing reflection of the state you occupy. If you believe that love is difficult, that people betray you, that relationships never last, then that is exactly what you will experience. Not because the world is against you, but because your assumptions shape what you perceive and attract. If you were to shift your assumption to truly believe that you are loved, cherished, and worthy of deep connection, the world would confirm it. People who once seemed distant would suddenly treat you differently. The relationships you attract would reflect the love you now assume to be true. The only thing standing between you and your desired reality is your current state of being. If you continue to react to the world as it is, you will remain stuck in the same cycle. But if you shift your inner world, the outer world must follow. It has no choice, for it is only a reflection of what you hold within. Time is not the barrier most believe it to be. People think they must wait for things to change, that circumstances must first shift before they can feel differently. But the truth is the opposite. You must first feel differently before circumstances can shift. The external world lags behind the internal assumption. If you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled now, the physical world must catch up to reflect it. It may take days, weeks, or moments, but the law is absolute. What you assume within will become your reality without. Doubt is the only thing that delays the process. The moment you question whether your assumption is working, you step out of the state of knowing and into the state of uncertainty. When you dwell in doubt, the world reflects that doubt. But when you remain firm in your assumption, when you refuse to entertain anything other than the reality you have chosen within, the external world must conform. Think of yourself as a sculptor, shaping your world with your inner state. Every thought, every feeling, every belief is a tool that carves your reality into form. If you sculpt from a place of fear, lack, or uncertainty, your world will reflect those qualities. But if you sculpt from a place of confidence, love, and abundance, that is what will appear before you. The key is to remain unwavering in your assumption, knowing that the world has no choice but to mirror what you have accepted as true. You are not bound by the past, not limited by circumstances, not at the mercy of forces outside of yourself. The power is within you, always. The moment you change your assumption, you change your world. The only question is, what will you assume to be true? Choose wisely, for your assumption is the blueprint from which reality is formed. There is no need to chase or struggle for what is already yours. The very act of chasing something implies that you do not have it. It affirms a state of lack, a belief that what you desire is separate from you, and as long as you hold that belief, it will remain just out of reach. When you truly understand that everything you seek is already within you, already yours in consciousness, you will cease the endless striving. You will step into the state of knowing, and from that state the world will shift to reflect your assumption. People spend their lives running after things: money, love, success, recognition, believing that if they could just work hard enough, push a little more, fight a little longer, then what they seek will finally come. But this is an illusion. The world does not respond to force, it responds to assumption. When you chase, you affirm separation. When you assume, you embody possession. The moment you accept that what you desire is already yours, the need to chase disappears, and that which you once sought begins to flow toward you effortlessly. Think of a person who desires love, but constantly seeks validation from others. They are always trying to prove their worth, to earn affection, to convince someone to love them. But in doing so, they reinforce the belief that love is something outside of them, something they must fight for. As long as they hold that belief, love will remain elusive. But the moment they step into the assumption that they are already loved, already whole, already worthy, the external world will begin to mirror that truth. People will be drawn to them, relationships will form naturally, and they will no longer have to chase love because love will come to them effortlessly. The same principle applies to money. Those who constantly struggle for wealth, who believe they must work tirelessly, who stress over financial security, are affirming that money is scarce, that it is something difficult to obtain, and so their reality reflects that belief. No matter how hard they work, they remain in a state of lack because their assumption is one of struggle. But those who truly assume abundance, who walk in the knowing that money flows freely to them, will find that wealth comes in unexpected ways. They will attract opportunities, unexpected windfalls, and effortless prosperity, not because they chased money, but because they embodied the state of financial abundance. Everything flows naturally to the one who knows it is already theirs. When you release the need to chase, when you step into the feeling of already having, you create an irresistible magnetic pull. The world begins to shift, people respond to you differently, and doors that once seemed closed suddenly open with ease. You do not need to struggle for what is already yours. The moment you assume possession, the world has no choice but to reflect that assumption. Imagine an actor preparing for a role. They do not simply memorize lines and perform mechanically. They fully immerse themselves in the character. They think, feel, and behave as if they are the person they are portraying. And because they commit so deeply to this assumption, the audience believes them. They do not see an actor on stage. They see the character brought to life. In the same way, you must assume the state of your desired reality so completely that the world believes it, that circumstances mold themselves around your inner conviction. You do not need to force anything. You need only to embody the reality you wish to experience. If you desire success, step into the assumption that you are already successful. Feel the confidence, the ease, the security that comes with knowing success is yours. Walk, talk, and think as the successful version of yourself. The world will respond accordingly. If you desire health, assume the feeling of being vibrantly healthy. Feel the energy, the vitality, the strength. Your body will align with that assumption. If you desire peace, assume that you are already at peace. Dwell in that state, and the chaos of the world will fade into the background. The law is simple. What you assume as true becomes your reality. The external world is merely an echo of your inner world. If you believe that things must be difficult, they will be. If you believe that you must struggle, you will. But if you truly accept that everything you desire is already yours, that it is coming to you effortlessly, then reality will shape itself to reflect that assumption. People often ask, how long will it take? But time is irrelevant. The moment you step into the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you have planted the seed. The timing of its manifestation is not your concern. A farmer does not dig up the soil every day to see if the seed is growing. He trusts that it will sprout at the right time. In the same way, you must trust that what you have assumed in consciousness will unfold in perfect order. Doubt and impatience only disrupt the process. When you truly know that something is yours, you do not question it, you do not worry about it, you do not chase it. You simply allow it to come to you. Consider the way a magnet attracts metal. It does not reach out, struggle, or force the metal to move toward it. It simply exists in a state that naturally draws things toward it. In the same way, your assumptions act as a magnetic force, pulling experiences, people, and circumstances that match your state of being. When you embody the feeling of already having what you desire, the world has no choice but to respond in kind. Many people misunderstand this principle and believe they must take relentless action to make things happen. But action, when it comes from a place of desperation or fear, only reinforces the state of lack. Inspired action, however, flows naturally from the state of knowing. When you have assumed the feeling of already possessing what you desire, the actions you take will be effortless, joyful, and perfectly aligned with your manifestation. You will be moved to act in ways that feel natural and fulfilling, rather than exhausting and stressful. This is the difference between those who struggle and those who succeed effortlessly. The ones who struggle believe they must force things to happen. The ones who succeed know that everything they desire is already theirs, and they act from that knowing. They are not waiting, they are not chasing. They are simply being. And because they are, the world bends to accommodate them. You must become the embodiment of what you seek. If you desire love, embody love. If you desire success, embody success. If you desire peace, embody peace. Do not look to the world to confirm it first. Assume it within, and the world will follow. Everything flows to the one who does not chase, to the one who simply knows. When you shift your state of being, the world must reflect that shift, for it can do nothing else. The key is to stop looking outside yourself for confirmation. Do not wait for the evidence to appear before you believe. Believe first, assume first, feel first. When you dwell in the state of already having, you set in motion the forces that will bring it to you. You do not need to know how, when, or through whom it will come. That is not your concern. Your only concern is to remain in the state of knowing, in the unwavering assumption that it is already done. When you no longer chase, when you no longer beg, when you no longer doubt, you become the embodiment of certainty. And in that certainty, everything you desire flows effortlessly to you, for it has no choice but to do so. The world is your mirror, and it will always reflect the state in which you dwell. Choose wisely, for your assumption is the force that shapes your reality. There is an unseen intelligence at work, orchestrating the unfolding of events in perfect harmony. The mind, in its impatience, often resists this divine order, attempting to force outcomes through worry, doubt, and fear. But the more one tries to control the process, the more resistance is created. The key is to trust that everything is happening exactly as it should, in perfect alignment with the assumption held in consciousness. When a desire is felt deeply and assumed to be true, the unseen forces begin to rearrange the fabric of reality to bring it into being. But this process is not always visible to the physical eye. The impatient mind looks for evidence, searching the outer world for signs that the manifestation is near, and when those signs do not appear immediately, doubt begins to creep in. Doubt is nothing more than the denial of the unseen process already at work. The moment doubt enters, the assumed reality is weakened, and the manifestation is delayed. Think of a seed planted in the soil. A farmer does not dig it up every day to check if it is growing. He understands that beneath the surface, unseen but active, the seed is taking root. He waters it, nurtures it, and trusts the process. In time, the plant emerges, first as a sprout, then as a full-grown tree bearing fruit. The same law governs the manifestations of life. What is assumed in the mind must be nurtured with faith, watered with conviction, and left undisturbed by impatience. People often mistake a delay for a denial. They assume that if something has not yet appeared in their external world, it must not be working. But the truth is, every desire, when firmly assumed, is already in motion. The physical world is merely catching up to what has already been established in consciousness. The more one surrenders to this truth, the faster the outer world conforms. But surrender does not mean giving up. It means releasing the need to control. It means stepping into the knowing that all things arrive at their appointed time, neither too soon nor too late. Life unfolds in ways that the rational mind cannot predict. The paths that lead to the fulfillment of desires are often unexpected, appearing in ways that defy logic. This is why trusting the unseen is so essential. The conscious mind does not need to figure out every step. It only needs to remain steadfast in the assumption that what is desired is already done. The unseen forces take care of the details, moving people, events, and circumstances into place. When one truly trusts the unseen process, there is no anxiety, no restlessness, no need to manipulate the world. There is only a deep and unshakable peace, an effortless knowing that what has been assumed is already on its way. And in that quiet certainty, the world bends to fulfill the assumption, for it has no choice but to reflect the state of mind in which one dwells.